but it is a massive weekend of flat racing. Longines Irish Champions Weekend taking place at Leopardstown on Saturday and the Curragh on Sunday. 4,000 spectators allowed back in, the biggest event for racing since the outbreak of COVID. And to look ahead to, well, a quite incredible weekend of racing, I'm joined by Michael Verney of the Irish Independent. Good evening, Michael.
How's it going, Nathan? A nervous week for you?
Yeah, I might catch some of this just to calm myself down beforehand on Saturday before the final gets underway. And listen, it'll be a mighty fine distraction as well, because the Champion Stakes on Saturday, 2:45 at the Curragh. We're talking about one of the best flat races ever to take place on Irish soil.
Yeah, I don't think that's an exaggeration either, Nathan, to be honest with you. There's only 4 runners, but particularly 3 of them. Like it's really, really top class stuff. It's going to be a 3-way dance between St. Mark's Basilica, Tarnawa and Poetic Flare. And it's just the fact that there's no dead wood or anything in the race. It's just really top class stuff. Joseph O'Brien has another runner in Patrick Sarsfield, which you'd imagine wouldn't be in the frame. There's not going to be any pacemakers. There's not going to be any messing. It's just going to be, the best horse is going to win. Leopardstown, such a fair track as well, a real galloping track. And yeah, it's a race. Often we build these races up weeks in advance, and something happens, or a horse has a niggle here, or is it a different engagement somewhere else. These 3 had kind of been earmarked for this race from a long way out, although Poetic Flare had an entry in France last weekend, and the 3 of them are going to turn up now. And it's just so intriguing. St. Mark's Basilica is unbeaten this year, 3 from 3 this year. All his runs in France. He's the best 3-year-old around, definitely the best 3-year-old in Ireland anyway. Trained by Aidan O'Brien, coming up against Tarnawa. Only 1 run this season, but her last 3 runs of last season were just superb, really. 3 big Group 1 wins, a big win at the Breeders' Cup as well. Colin Keane picked up the ride at the Breeders' Cup last year because Christophe Soumian had a bit of COVID chaos, and he's obviously kept the ride. Tarnawa was just brilliant in the Ballyroan last month. I think it was 6.5 lengths at the finish line. She comes here in brilliant form, en route to the Arc. And then you have Poetic Flare, who handed Jim Bulger another classic success earlier this year. Just real teak tough horse, won at Royal Ascot as well. Rarely runs a bad race. So yeah, like it's a real mouth-watering race. And in fairness, I think it was originally scheduled to take place in or around 4:30, and they've definitely saw the logic in moving it forward so that everybody's going to get to enjoy it, and that it won't clash with the football. So it's going to be a race for the ages, it looks like.
So this is a clash of the big guns in every way. Aidan O'Brien, St. Mark's Basilica, Dermot Well, Tarnawa, Jim Bulger, Poetic Flare. It couldn't be set up more beautifully.
No, sure. It's 3 of the greatest trainers that we've ever produced. Aidan is probably the greatest trainer of them all. Ryan Moore beyond St. Mark's Basilica. St. Mark's Basilica was actually down to run the Juddmonte International at York last month, but got a little kind of a cut to his near hind, I think it was, which ended up in an infection. So he hasn't ran in about 70 days, which is a small bit of a worry. Tarnawa had her seasonal appearance last month, as I said, in the Ballyroan. She should be, cherry ripe for this. And Poetic Flare, who's just, a real iron horse, has ran, a good handful of times already this season. The 3 of them are going to clash, and it's going to be really interesting. I say the tactics in such a small field like that are going to be really, really intriguing. There could be a bit of rope-a-dope maybe to see who actually sets the pace. Patrick Sarsfield maybe potentially, who doesn't normally race at the front, could potentially get a soft lead because the other 3 in behind maybe will be, maybe keeping their eye on each other rather than maybe keeping an eye on him. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting race. And Irish Champion Stakes traditionally is one of the best races of the year, and Longines Irish Champions Weekend is literally the cream of the crop over 2 days. And I think it's special as well in the sense that you have day 1 at Leopardstown, and then you have day 2 at the Curragh. I just like the fact nearly that it's at different tracks, different demands, different races. Obviously one's left-handed and one is right-handed as well, so it's different tests too. But it's some weekend race. I think it's 6 Group 1s overall. The Champion Stakes is worth €1 million. It doesn't actually have a sponsor, and it's still worth €1 million, which is a credit to all involved as well.
Yeah, it's incredibly exciting for anybody who has tickets, and I think it's pretty much sold out. If you don't have one, get online as quick as you possibly can to go and see this, because you are watching three horses that over the next couple of months as well, you're going to see win some of the other biggest races in the world, you'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely say, well, obviously Tarnawa is on her way to the Arc. That's what's been one of her seasonal aims. That's why she stayed in training. She's a 5-year-old. She's going to go to the covering shed probably at the end of this season. You don't know whether St. Mark's Basilica will stay in training. He's just worth so much, going to be worth so much as a stallion now. With his 3 Group 1 wins already this year, and Poetic Flair as well is probably going to go on to a great career that we'd all love as a stallion as well. So it's very rare that it happens that, the cream of the crop actually face off, and there's not going to be any excuses from any of them. They're all perfectly fit and ready to go. So, yeah, a really, really intriguing race.
Excuse my absolute ignorance with this question, but Joseph O'Brien, you mentioned, has the 4th and final runner in the race, and you're talking about tactics. Joseph O'Brien and Aidan O'Brien, like, family ties go out the window. There's no possibility that Patrick Sarsfield sets this up nicely for Aidan O'Brien?
I doubt it, Nathan. No, definitely not. We've kind of talked to Aidan and even Donica and Joseph about this before. They'll ask, the 2 lads will ask their father's opinion and this and that.
Right.
But once it gets to the races, it's dog eat dog. They're happy for the other one if they win, but they're doing everything possible to beat the other while they can. So no, I don't think anyone will be setting it up for anybody else.
Sunday then, down to the Curragh and the Derringtown Flying 5. Oisin Murphy coming back to Ireland. He's a superstar of British horse racing. He's heading for his 3rd British champion jockey's crown. But Kerryman, just a handful of Irish winners, so I'm sure he's desperate to do it on home turf.
Yeah, it's rare enough that he would be back in Ireland. He left Ireland in his teens. His uncle would be Jim Cullity, who rode Best Mate to win 3 Gold Cups. He was starting off his career as a jockey. He was working a bit with Aidan O'Brien, just learning his craft, and a bit with Tommy Stack as well. But there was no room for an apprentice in either of those stables. So he decided to take his chance over in England. He was crowned champion apprentice not long after going over, based with Andrew Balding, and he has been a 2-time champion jockey since. And I just see he had another winner today. He's about 10 or 12 clear of William Buick to become a 3-time champion jockey. He's just a bit of a phenomenon. Really interesting one about Oisin Murphy, actually. He's from Killarney, and he actually had the same babysitter as David Clifford. They're both from in around Fossa.
Wow.
Just outside Killarney. So this lady is definitely the babysitter or childminder to the stars. And I've often asked Oisin about he always said, even when David was younger, he was doing kind of mad things and seriously talented things, and he always likes looking on at seeing what he's doing from afar. Oisin travels the world. He rides regularly in Japan. He rides regularly in the UAE as well. He's in demand, but it's great to see him back. He's only had a handful of winners in Ireland. I think his first winner in Ireland was at the 2018 Champions Weekend. He had a winner for Willie Mullins, and then he rode Roaring Lion to win the Champion Stakes. And he rarely gets back. He hasn't been home in a long time.
Right.
But nice for him to come back. And it's just another. He's on Dragon Symbol, trained by Archie Watson. That's a really interesting. That Derringtown Flying 5 is really interesting. Loads of English raiders in that, but Dragon Symbol definitely has a live chance as well.
Yeah, I know he's had a couple of problems, but we had him on the show last year, and he's such an interesting guy to talk to. And as you say, just a brilliant story where he came from in Killarney and the way his career has gone around the world. And we've got a
really interesting fella as well, Nathan, because it was after the Derby last year. He was beaten. I think it was Cameco. He rode in the Derby last year, and he admitted himself he got the tactics wrong. And he actually did a video from his car after explaining why he went here in the race, and it went kind of viral because it's so rare that a jockey would do that. So he's very kind of fan friendly, and he wants to bring people into racing where possible and get them interested. So he kind of uses his profile very well, in fairness too.
Yeah, we got to get that woman who was babysitting both himself and David Clifford on the show, and maybe see would she mind my kids for a few hours every week and see can she work her magic. One more just to touch on the Irish St. Leger.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Ben Cohen is over in Doncaster on Saturday. He's riding in the English St. Leger. He's stable jockey for Johnny Murta, who's absolutely flying it. Johnny had won the Matron Stakes last year, Champions Weekend. I think it was his first Group 1 with Champers Elise. Ben won't be able to ride Champers Elise on Saturday because he's over in Doncaster to ride Ottoman Empire in the ledger. The Irish Derby winner, Hurricane Lane, would be probably is the heavy favourite, odds-on favourite to win that. But Ben would definitely think he has a chance of doing the Irish and English St. Ledger double. He's on Sonny Boy Liston in the Irish St. Ledger, the Coma Group Irish St. Ledger. Won the Ebor well the last day, and actually won at this meeting last year as well. Only won a handicap this time last year, but seems to thrive at this time of the year. So Sonny Boy Liston definitely has a good squeak in probably what is not the best Irish St. Ledger. So he definitely has an outside squeak at a decent price.
Yeah, it is going to be a sensational weekend. Saturday at Leopardstown, Sunday at the Curragh, and the one that everybody is going to be watching is that Group 1 Irish Champion Stakes, St Mark's Basilica, Tarnawa and Poetic Flare. 2:45 start time for that. You can get all the racing in before the All-Ireland final gets underway on Saturday evening. Before we let you go, Michael, and this is more for people watching online, but if you're listening on the radio, you have got the bedroom of my 10-year-old dreams. It is basically just wall-to-wall wrestling figures.
Yeah, there's quite a bit there.
You're not 10, Michael. Explain it.
No, I always like collecting different things. There's lots of wrestling figures here, all right, and there's lots of Funkos. You know the Funkos with the big heads. I like collecting them as well. But there's also racing memorabilia. I've a signed Sydney Swans jersey signed by Ty Kennelly. I've a signed boxing glove signed by Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. I've lots of different things. I've one of the fold-up chairs that they use at the wrestling events as well. The fold-up chairs that they use to smash over each other's head. So when mankind is getting smashed over the head, is that a different type of chair to the one someone would actually sit on? Is it softer? Yeah, it's a small bit different. This one has a bit of padding. It's for people to actually sit on, whereas the ones they hit each other with, or they used to hit each other with, have a little less protection. But I have one of them here. I've kind of picked up a lot of different things over a long kind of period of time. But this room is quite small and quite cramped. The next thing that's going to have to go is the bed, I'd imagine.
Michael, we're going to be keeping a close eye on you next time you're in the studio here, because we've got a lot of memorabilia. I don't want to see any of it popping up.
You're safe enough, Nathan. Nathan, a quick tip before I go as well. Just in the Patingo handicap on Saturday, Ryan Moore rides Hook Up for Willie Mullins. Willie Mullins has had a couple of winners at Champions Weekend the last couple of years. I wouldn't be 100% sure what the price of it will be at the moment, but ran well in the GPT at Galway, was fourth when encountering a bit of traffic. That has a chance. And I think Sonny Boy Liston has a good chance for Ben Cohn and Johnny Murty in the Irish St. Ledger on Sunday. All
right, we'll keep a close eye. And then Michael Verney, thanks as always.
Cheers, Nathan. Good man.
We're going to continue our build-up to Longines Champions Weekend on tomorrow's Friday night racing. Jessica Harrington's #1 jockey, Shane Foley, is going to be joining us live on all our social channels from 3 o'clock. The football show is up next.
He's only just recently forced his way into the England side, Southgate. Model, they call him, at Aston Villa. He does everything right. Well, let's hope he can do this right as well. Saved it!
Miss! Pizza Hut, Pen Pete.